I remember the first time I did it, first few days, like 2 IUs, I'm like, all right, this isn't doing anything. I'm not changing in front of the mirror. Like, all right, let's go 4. And then still, I'm not seeing shit. And then, because this is how my mind was. So I go to 8 IUs. I work all day on the floors in the hospital, and then I head over to the gym.
Your ankles must have been like this
exactly.
Thick.
Yep. I got to the gym, and I took off my scrubs, and I looked down, and I was like, oh my God, like I am embarrassed about how I look because my ankles are hanging over my shoes. Yeah, man. So I am right now. I'm a provider or a partner provider over at Marek Health. That's how I kind of got into this space. At least making the rounds on podcasts was through Marek because they've got a pretty good social, presence. Previous to that, though, I'm actually a foot and ankle surgeon. So by training, I trained in podiatry and then specialized in rear foot reconstructive surgery. And that's kind of my medical background. But all through that, through undergrad, medical training, residency, everything, I was just a bro at heart and doing a lot of self-experimentation. Right. A lot of your stories and my stories, when I listen to you, I resonate. I'm like, yeah, I've done that too. I've done that. Like, oh yeah, I did that stupid experiment myself. So I was always in this space learning a lot. And in school, just because when you specialize in a certain area of the body, like foot and ankle, I still learned all the basic biochemistry and physiology, and I need to know all the pharmacology. And so I had that background, and then I was able to use what I think is more important, my own experience, to kind of meld those two together and come up with, safe for use models and just kind of the experience and the knowledge melded together in one. And Derek reached out to me, asked me to come on to Marek. And in the beginning, I was like, well, I'm not really trained in this. And that's not what they were looking for. They weren't looking for somebody who's just trained in endocrinology, who's going to give you a once a week injection of, 100 milligrams and send you on your way with an anastrozole or something like that. We're trying to build something new here where we have people like yourself who are actually experienced in this, who know, what's going on. And so I came on to Marek, and it's just been amazing. About 10% of my time is now in the OR. It's very, very minimal. I do almost all of this exclusively because it's truly my passion. It's been a blast, man.
It's good to help people in our similar space, right? If you have an interest in that and your background is like that, of course. But I believe you have surgery in a couple hours. So you're still, still in demand that sense. But yeah, I love helping people, with TRT in their entire journey just to get into a better state of health, and whether that's with PEDs or without it. Right? Yeah. That's why I like Marek Health so much, because you guys don't just do cookie cutter TRT stuff, right? You actually help people with health and so many other things, just to make sure everybody gets set up right, and then they can really improve their quality of life. So I said, did you see that story of Bobby on Marek Health? Yeah. So he's one of my referrals. It must have been over 2 years ago, and then. Through Marek Health, we found out that he had severe issues with his heart, even though the background was that he was eating, processed carbohydrates in Greece, and he didn't really have an issue. And then he came back to America, and his inflammatory markers went sky high. And that was around the time I referred him to Marek Health. And then Dorian Belly really realized, like, oh, this can't be good. It was before I saw the blood work results. So they put him through the ringer, and then we're basically able to save his life, because if that would have continued for a couple more months, he probably punched his card.
Yeah.
So these kinds of success stories
like that.
Yeah. A lot of success stories. And now he's in a perfect state of health. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Is he a dentist?
Yeah, he's a dentist. Yeah, he's a dentist.
Really cool guy. Yeah, I like that guy a lot. He's really nice. Yeah. He's always reaching out to me. But that was an awesome experience where we, literally saved a person's life, And why I have a huge passion for Marek is because I know I did a lot of PEDs. I've talked a lot with like Fuad and Mark Bell about that and everything, but it was probably right around 2.5 years ago now that I one day was just like, this is stupid, I can change my focus. And it's kind of like, I'd say I probably started listening to you around there, where I was like, I'm really getting more focused on longevity and health. Yeah. I didn't realize, which is silly, but I didn't realize all those years that I was doing so much damage to myself. I kind of was just under this, I joke about when we started, the forums would say, side effects, like you're going to have high blood pressure, but it's only while you're on cycle. Don't worry about it. And then the other stuff was like what I call the aesthetic side effects. Now, the acne and the hair loss and the oily skin. I didn't really have any of those. My hair wasn't falling out. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. My acne, I had a few on my back, but unless, somebody saw me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not really getting side effects. This isn't anything wrong. And then I heard, GH15, you got to do 100 milligrams of Tren a day. And Boston Lloyd was back.
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, this is what the guys are doing. This is why they look that way and I don't. So I've got to load up on everything. And I did that shit for years. And I don't know why I wasn't thinking, this is causing damage. And it wasn't until people like yourself and Leo and Derek actually started talking like, these guys are fucking right. Like, and I'm like, duh, I talk a lot of crap sometimes about doctors where like, I'm like, why don't you understand basic biochemistry when they're saying, like carbohydrates are, and I'm like, don't you understand basic? And then I look at myself, I'm like, shit, didn't I understand basic biochemistry? This stuff was really stupid. I just had my own biases and blinders on because I was doing it,
Yeah, you just listen to the wrong people, especially on the forum days. Everybody was hiding behind anonymity. So you think they talk a big game, so you think they know what they're talking about. But in reality, they were probably just gym bros, covered in pimples and hair loss and gyno and just pushing higher dosages because they were probably also selling it at the same time. And let's be honest, those sources at the GH15 board, those were great. But of course, pushing more drugs on your customers, makes the business runs a lot better. So I learned plenty of mistakes through the boards. But there was also good people like Professional Muscle and Intense Muscle, right? Those guys.
Professional Muscle was my favorite.
Yeah, so there and actually real names came from there. A lot of the IFBB pros and a lot of knowledgeable people in the fitness industry. And some of now the private Discord groups, there's a lot of knowledgeable people there who also post behind anonymity. But then when you see their face and you know exactly that they're backing it up. So a lot has changed. But I do feel that like guys like you and me who've been there and done that, they should just be out there with their face out in the open so people can see us and know like, okay, he made these mistakes. But at least he didn't die and now learned a lot from it and now tried to prevent other people from making the same mistakes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's never too late. It's never too late to change,
That's true. Yeah. And see, the thing with me too is what, like, I'm big on like, guys, like I just never had the genetics. And I was, I felt like I was kind of lied to in that, or not lied to, but I guess I lied to myself even that it was just because I didn't have X drug yet, or I wasn't doing enough of this, or my source wasn't as good as theirs. And then eventually, I think everybody thinks that it's because I don't have growth hormone in. And then the time that I finally got growth hormone, because, gear's cheap. And then when I finally got my first like resident paycheck, because as a medical student and everything, you're living on debt every single day. Finally get a resident salary and I started spending it all on growth hormone. The only thing I fucking got was bloated. I remember the first time I did it, first few days, like 2 IUs, I'm like, all right, this isn't doing anything. I'm not changing in front of the mirror. Like, all right, let's go 4. And then still, I'm not seeing shit. And then, because this is how my mind was. So I go to 8 IUs. I work all day on the floors in the hospital. And then I head over
your
to the
ankles
gym.
Must have been like this
Exactly.
Thick.
Yep. I got to the gym and I took off my scrubs and I looked down and I was like, oh my God, like I am embarrassed about how I look because my ankles are hanging over my shoes. Like I'm leaving my scrubs on and working on with long pants today. And then, after probably, I think like 5 or 6 months of growth hormone, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I just look old. Like I thought this was supposed to make me, look more vibrant and everything. In the beginning, I felt like I did, but then, 6 months in of high doses, I'm just like, my skin is aging rapidly right now. I'm getting all these new wrinkles, like. And then, you look at guys on the IFBB stage, they're younger than me, and they look like they're 50. And I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. And I'm like, everything that I'm doing is accelerating growth. And if you think about that, like that's accelerating aging. I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And it was around that time, I'm like, I'm doing this shit backwards, man. I'm not making it. I'm not going to be one of those guys. I'm not going to be a pro. So I need to like reevaluate my, what I consider to be important.
Yeah, you're better off helping people, through these kinds of podcasts and helping people one-on-one through Marek Health. Yeah, and it's funny that even if you're a foot doctor and so knowledgeable about these things, that it can still happen. You just don't see it while it's happening, and then at one point you realize, like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? And then you definitely feel lied to because these guys on the forums would just talk so much about doing more and more and more and more, but in reality, it's not the way for most people. And the pros, they know. Right away, they do their first or second cycle. They get great results. They blow past everybody else. And those guys end up being successful because they never really have to take much, so they don't burn out. It's like the gym bros, like you and me. We can build a decent physique, but not a great physique that's competitive. And then even if we build a great physique, we really have to abuse ourselves. I know now when I look back at older pictures when I was like 120 kilos. So that's 200, let's say 255, 260 pounds. Dude, I look older than I do now, but that's 5 years ago.
Right. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to slowly undo some of the damage that I've done, with anti-aging protocols, NAD plus, nicotinamide mononucleotide, and my diet was always on point.
Yeah.
It's basically the same diet. I eat healthy, what is it? More expensive food, to quote unquote organic, but it's imported. So you don't have to worry about pesticides and, antibiotics and that kind of stuff. So I spend all my money on food and pharmaceuticals, right? Not this underground stuff that used to promote on the boards. Yeah. Yeah. And blood work, obviously, and organ imaging. And now slowly it's reversing. And even when I look back at a couple months ago when I was on cycle, I realized man, maybe that's not the look I want to go for anymore. I would like to have the muscles, but facially it just destroys you.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I think you were probably the first one who I actually heard talking about that, because I was noticing it. And then I heard you talking. I'm like, yeah, why isn't anybody bringing this up? And, like I said, I started looking. I'm like, all these top IFBB guys are either my age or younger than me. And they literally look 20 years older than me, and they're all super cool guys. But, like, look at Ian Vier. The dude looks like he's in his 40s, he's in his 30s, and it's just like, they're just, because they're big, their face gets, they age out. It's just what it is.
That's why it's called bodybuilding. It's from the neck down. True. It's not from the face up.
Yeah.
Your body might look great, but from the face, from the neck up, man.
Yeah.
It's you get all the you get all these wrinkles here and then up here, and then even the skull.
Oh yeah,
grooves,
they get all like the bulldog wrinkles too.
Yeah, in the back. Yeah, I got a little bit of those, but thank God the camera's in the front. Yeah. Thank God. So, but it's such a learning experience for all of us. But I think through all those mistakes, you kind of learn, like, maybe this is not the right way, and then you can prevent all these other people who never even wanted to go to that direction. Like, hey, just slow down. Take it, respect these drugs, respect the lifestyle, and then you can use some of these tools to actually get into a better state of health.
Exactly.
It just don't do these crazy experiments like we used to do. And stay away from the message boards. It's basically.
And the thing is like, I feel like we go after what the pros are doing, but most of us actually don't really want to look like those guys do, most kids don't, at least they don't want to be maybe you did, because you actually had a true passion for bodybuilding for a while. I did too, but most guys, they just want to look good when the vacation comes around and they step out on the beach and they can get a few Instagram photos. Which for the vast majority of people, you could probably do natural. It literally just means having abs. That's all you really need. When people see abs, they automatically think, whoa, that's like a top 90, that's better than 99% of the population. You don't need gear to do that. You could probably do that naturally. And so don't chase what the IFBB pros are doing just to look like a natty dude. That's the thing. There's so many guys want to jump on cycle right away. I'm like, you really don't need it,